I'm Jesse McAnally.
And I'm Andrew DeWolf.
And I'm Brianna Jones, and I'm back, bitches.
Technically, you were already back a week, but welcome to Musicals with Cheese, a podcast where I try to convince Andrew and Bree to like musical theater. And we've got our favorite guest, our first guest, and the best guest. And you guys will know him as Brent Floss, but today he's Brent Boy the Musical.
Hello.
Yay.
Hello.
We've missed you.
Thank you. I've missed being on the show. For the Patreon viewers, I intentionally made it a spooky kind of look with like a red light.
I actually really like it. You look really good in this.
Thank
Good
you.
lighting.
Thank you.
I
He
kind of
has
wish I
become
could
the
do
Bat
it.
Boy.
And I'm going to hold myself, Bat Boy. Touch myself, Bat Boy. Help myself through the night. If nobody knows those lyrics, you're already confused and grossed out. Anyway, bye forever.
They're whims.
Not
They're
as,
whims.
not
but
as
they can't
confused and grossed out as they would be if they saw Bat Boy the musical.
That's true.
I will say, Bat Boy the Musical was a little bit more intense than I expected, TBH.
Oh my god, Jess is going through a dark phase.
I am.
Had you never seen it, Jess?
I had listened to the album a ton, but I had never properly seen it. Like, I've never watched the full thing. In case you guys haven't picked up on it, because I forgot our structure, this week we are talking about Bat Boy the Musical. Cue the music, Bree.
I know you hate me, but if you could only see me the way I see all of you. Look at all your faces, children, husbands, wives. God, you're all so beautiful. I envy you your lives. Going to work, building your schools, throwing a football or swimming in pools. Out in the sun, living by rules. I can learn how if you teach me the tools. I know I'm strange, so help me change, please.
Bat Boy the Musical is a musical with music and lyrics by Lawrence O'Keefe and a book by Keith Farley and Brian Fleming. It is based on the Bat Boy stories in like those old like newspaper magazines. I forget what they were called, but they were like all over the place in like the
Tabloids?
Like, yeah, those like weird tabloid things like the world's tallest man marries world's smallest girl. And it just has some bullshit in it. It's like Ripley's Believe It or Not stuff. But it opened on off-Broadway at Union Square Theater on March 21st, 2001, and closed on December 2nd, 2001. It is based in the Weekly World News. Bat Boy the Musical is a musical comedy horror show about a half-boy, half-bat creature who is discovered in a cave near Hope Falls, West Virginia. For lack of a better solution, the local sheriff brings Bat Boy to the home of the town veterinarian, Dr. Parker, where he is eventually accepted as a member of the family and taught to act like a normal boy by the veterinarian's wife, Meredith, and teenage daughter, Shelley. And Brent, I know this has been a favorite of yours for a long while.
Yes. So in the year 2007, wow, it's getting so long ago that I need to be like, the year was 2007. I was writing a musical in grad school with my buddy Rob Broadhurst, and it was like a Faustian tale about a boy who wants friends and the devil wants his soul. But we were trying to watch shows that felt like they also had kind of a spooky feel.
Right.
And we got access to the Toft Library, which is this random weird library at Lincoln Center where they have pro-shot videos of like every musical that made any kind of significant splash over the last 30 years. You can't bring a phone, you can't bring anything but pencil and paper, and you watch it on a tiny tube TV. But ever since I watched it, despite my misgivings and despite my problems with it, it is in fact one of my favorite shows. And unlike my sometimes seriously vicious and cold, unfeeling takedowns of certain musicals on this show, I think this one's a good example of how if the story of a show really grips me and the music's halfway good, I'm just way less critical of the small details.
I think that's fair. This composer, Lawrence O'Keefe, would later go on to do Legally Blonde and Heathers and stuff like that. And I wish I had seen this before I had seen all of that, because I feel like that captures the same tone with like 5% more heart. And I feel like I miss a little bit of heart in this show.
Yeah. Wait, in this one?
Yeah,
or
and
the
Bat-Boy.
others?
I feel like Bat-Boy doesn't quite have as much heart as those other
Oh,
ones.
that's fascinating. Oh, we're going to get into it. Woo!
Yes. But Andrew, this was your first time diving in, because I'd listened to the cast recording and had an awareness, but I hadn't properly seen it beginning to end. What was your thoughts on this?
Honestly, I had no idea where they were going at any given time. It was like, you're 20 minutes in and I'm like, all right, so there's like a bad boy in the cave and he's like eats people, but like this family wants to adopt him. So it's going to be like Little Shop, right? Like they're going to have to feed him human. Oh, wait, no, not at all. They teach him how to speak English. All right. Oh, he wants to date the sister now. Okay. He wants to be a Jesus man. He's going back to the cave. All right. And it's like, what is happening? It is a wild ride. But honestly, it's very interesting. And I thought it was pretty funny for the most part. They kind of had pretty good humor. I enjoyed it.
Yes. Before we go further, we do have to bring up that this show tackles some topics that are much more serious, and it's a time capsule of the early aughts. And some things that we probably wouldn't joke about are joked about here. That doesn't make it bad. It's just a thing to bring up. There's talks of like incest and rape and all that stuff. And it's played so weird and darkly lighthearted in the same way of something like Heathers that it's no way that you're kind of going to take it seriously. But we are going to bring that up. And if that's going to make you uncomfortable, go ahead with caution. All right, let's keep going. So, Brent, have you ever seen this live, like properly live?
No, but at this point I have seen two different recordings of two different, like the recording of the original cast and also a high school, which I'm sorry, Jess, you sent all these zip files for me. Not that we would ever watch a bootleg, but these zip files. And I was like, I wonder if there's one on YouTube. So you sent me those in vain. But I did watch a high school that was one of these like probably very affluent, very white school districts where they have really good funding because it was like good, y'all. It was surprisingly good. And I'll get into differences in how they staged various things as we go along. But what was the question?
You answered it. You got there. You
Okay.
answered it.
Have you ever seen it live?
No.
Which is fair. I'm actually going to turn to Andrew real quick. If you could, tell us in as short as possible what the plot is of Bat-Boy.
Sure. The broad strokes of it is there is a Bat Boy in a cave, and it's exactly what you think of when you think of Bat Boy. It's like a Nosferatu type, like pointy ears and vampire teeth and a bald head. It's a Bat Boy. So
Great.
there's
Perfect.
some people spelunking or cave exploring. I don't really know. They're in the cave, and the Bat Boy attacks one of them, and then that's the start of everything, because the Bat Boy gets captured and they bring them to the veterinarian's house to put them down. But there's the mother and daughter duo, and they're like, no, we're not going to do that. So they don't kill the Bat Boy, even though the town really wants them to. Then they teach the Bat Boy to speak English, even though the veterinarian father is really against this and really wants to just kill the Bat Boy pretty badly. At a certain point, the Bat Boy wants to join society, and the veterinarian himself, who I believe his name is Mr. Parker?
Yeah,
is that
Dr.
right?
Parker. Don't take away his doctorate.
Even though it's a veterinarian degree. Dr. Parker.
Our veterinarian viewers are going to be like, I can't believe you said that. Oh my
I was
God.
in there for 12 years learning about all the various digestive systems of lots of animals. Anyway.
I was a fan of you guys until today.
True. No, but Dr. Parker doesn't want him to join society, so he decides that the best thing to do is to just start murdering people. So he goes and he kills the person that Bat Boy originally attacked and blames it on him. While he's doing this, though, Bat Boy, of course, attends a church revival. I think that's what it is, and he is now loved by the whole town for about 5 minutes until the Dr. Parker shows up and is like, "Oh no, Bat Boy is
evil."
He kills them even if he doesn't want to. I don't even know what he says. He gave them an infection or something.
Yeah.
And then Bat Boy attacks someone else, and Dr. Parker kills them too, and it just goes on like that for a little while. And then Bat Boy runs away and lives in the woods, and the sister character, or
Daughter.
the daughter,
Not sister that we know of yet.
we don't know that yet. The daughter shows up and is like, "I'm in love with you, let's do it," and they do it. I think.
After Pan tells them, yeah, y'all should fuck.
Yeah, I don't think that really happened, but honestly I could be wrong. That might have actually been
the abstract
real.
spirit of horny wood nymphs, some kind of, horny demigods out there in the forest.
But Bat Boy desperately needs to drink your blood to survive. So he's like, "Oh, get away from me, because I am gonna eat you." And she's like, "No, you can eat me, it's fine." But then the whole town shows up before that happens, and Dr. Parker decides right now is a really good time to explain that, oh Lord, do I even get into this?
That the people that were raising him were his actual parents because of bestiality, and so now he...
Spoilers, by the way, obviously.
Okay. Yeah, and therefore incest, and then the musical kind of ends.
Yeah.
Exposition dump, twist, explanation, end.
Good Lord, this is a really difficult one to explain, to be honest.
It is.
Every 5 seconds, there's like a big twist that just goes somewhere else.
And
especially if you've only watched it once, like it really, you said it well, it is a ride and you don't know where it's going.
But this is one of those stories where I feel like not enough breadcrumbs were left for you to follow the twist, and where it felt almost like a lie. A lie to be like, hey, we got you.
I think that's how you know it's a good twist. Well, okay, unless you feel like, and again, I think a lot of this has to do with acting.
Yes.
Because, it's like watching The Matrix, where a second watch through, you're like, oh shit, technically that reaction could go both ways. He was technically reacting to a thing we didn't know that he knew. But if this show is acted in a way that doesn't really consider the twist coming, it can feel more like a lie. And now I wish I'd seen the version y'all had seen, because to me, I feel like it sets it up just well enough where you're like, oh, it was all there all along. It was so obvious, but it isn't your first time through,
Mm-hmm. Which might be, as you said, the opportunity for a good twist. But when I watched it, I was like, that feels like a lot of moments have now changed for the negative that happened before this. But it also could have a lot to do with performance and the way it is acted, as you said. There's a lot of different facets and balls in the air going on here. Now, Brent, what do you feel drives you to this musical? What do you think sets it above a lot of other parody musicals? Say, Andrew made a comparison to Star Kid, but I think this is way better than most of their stuff.
I gotta say, I don't think of this, and keeping in mind, parody, there are a few things where I can say I think I'm an expert on this topic, but I don't think of this as a parody because I don't think that many people were familiar with Bat Boy aside from maybe having seen the front page of the National Enquirer or the Weekly World News. Like, as opposed to, I'm working on a Star Trek musical. There are 700 episodes of Star Trek. There was like 1 or 2 stories in the tabloids about this Bat Boy. So from my perspective, it's a melodramatic, like it's a melodrama or a tragic comedy. But with that said, I think what it does really well is, it seems like when they wrote it, it was probably a queer allegory, because the Christian themes run right through it, and who doesn't let Edgar be who he is? All these Christians. Mm-hmm. Well, what else did Christians, particularly at the turn of the century, not let young people do? Be anything other than straight and cisgender. So now, that being said, I think it also, and this is speaking from the fact that I was raised in the church, like when you're raised in the church and you believe it, you sort of hate yourself for the things that tempt you, for the ways in which you, quote, fall short of the glory of God. And that's how I, my way into it was, oh man, I was the kid that was like, oh, I am such a bad Christian because I'm horny and I occasionally do things about it. And I feel like the character of Bat Boy exemplifies that. And then the end of the show is, hold your Bat Boy, or what is it? It's the idea is like embrace your inner Bat Boy, whether the lyrics are that or not. And I think it is an allegory for the things that aren't okay in society that when you really look at them aren't harmful. They just need to be considered and accepted. But the person who isn't acceptable in society ends up hating themselves so much because society doesn't accept them or understand them. So, like, if it started as a parody of the Weekly World News, like, I see how they got to where they are, but it's funny. I think this has more heart than Heather's. I think that I have literally teared up watching moments from this show, even though it's silly, even though the ending is a lot. So that's just me. But again, I feel like it hit me different at a different time. And we've seen different combinations of performances. So I'm really curious how it hit based on the performance you've seen.
Now, Andrew, did you feel emotionally connected to this musical? Or I guess I'm back to Brent again. Would you consider Little Shop of Horrors a parody? Sorry, I had a question I wanted to ask. Would you consider Little Shop of Horrors a parody? Because I feel like that's its most closest relation on the Broadway spectrum.
I'm going to make up, first off, great question. I'm going to make up a term called Parody Plus. Mm-hmm. The Office musical parody that ran and I guess is running again on Broadway. It's not Parody Plus. If you don't know The Office pretty well, there's going to be a lot of stuff that you just don't get, and it doesn't find a way to reach out to someone who's never seen The Office and pull them in with a good story. And the same goes, whereas something like Puffs, which isn't a musical, but it is a parody of Harry Potter, does have some heart toward the end, and so it's Parody Plus. And Little Shop is the ultimate Parody Plus because I don't think that the movie Little Shop of Horrors was all that well known. Like Made in the Day, random Roger Corman B movie. Right. I think what the audiences got into with Little Shop was it was a parody of the time. It's got so much sha-la-la 1960s kind of feel and exemplifies the B movie kind of vibe. But at the same time, whereas the movie didn't have that much heart and failed, I think, the original film failed at its attempt to really make you feel something deeply. I think that especially the live show, Little Shop of Horrors, more than the theatrical cut of the movie, but I think it does have some heart, and I think you do get caught up in like, wow, I kind of care about these characters. So in that way, they are similar, but that being said, I wouldn't call them pure parody, either one, of their source material.
I mean, yeah, that's a fair explanation of what parody means to you and where it kind of was like confusing to me. But Andrew, did you feel any heart and connection there? Were you ever emotionally touched by the story of the Bat Boy and Edgar?
I thought it had a lot of heart, actually. I actually kind of agree with Brent here. I didn't think about it on the same level that he has, although I think he has had a lot more time to think about this show than I have. But yeah, I think that there was a lot to say about like the Edgar character and what they were trying to do with it. I don't know if I agree with you that like you were saying Legally Blonde and Heathers had more heart than this.
I'm thinking more than Legally Blonde.
I definitely don't see Legally Blonde having more heart than this show. It feels like this was like a passion show, if anything, whereas Legally Blonde kind of, I'm not saying it was bad, but it was definitely felt more like they were just trying to adapt something.
I mean, I feel more heart from the Legally Blonde musical than I did from the movie, to be honest. And I feel like a lot of that comes from the musical side of that.
Sure, yeah.
You kind of have to. And I feel like they're good at this, but I feel like everything outside of Edgar is really so over the top in a way that kind of takes you out of the emotional connection you have to Edgar.
Well, I think they were trying to be funny for the most part. And there was one gag in particular that I really liked, which was everyone who dies in the show is all from the same family.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the last person that dies is killed by their own mother, which I thought was really funny.
I mean, that's horrifying in theory. Like, if you just read that in a plot synopsis, that's horrible.
Yeah, and
but it's obviously played for laughs, though, and these characters don't have any character whatsoever.
Yeah, I think this show can be done incorrectly, even though I don't know the author's intent, but having seen the seminal production, you assume like the first big production sort of took that into account, and it's like, I think it needs a tiny bit of camp, a lot of what I would call melodrama, where it is heightened, it is a little more dramatic, it is a little more theatrical, but the great thing about melodrama as a genre is you can flip seamlessly from melodrama into actual drama because the audience has been, if it's funny melodrama, the audience has been tenderized, pulverized with laughs, and they're vulnerable. So when you twist the knife, I know I'm mixing metaphors like a motherfucker, but like when you suddenly make it painful and make them feel things, again, it takes very specific direction and acting. In a way, it can be more emotional than like your Frank Wildhorn shows where it's like, yeah, there's drama, but there's also 7 love ballads. Jesus, I'm going to go take a dump. Tell me when it's over. God.
Okay. So let's talk about Kevin Murphy, who did later collaborate with Lawrence O'Keefe on these. And I know that Kevin Murphy was the spearhead behind another one of your favorite musicals, Brent, Reefer Madness, the musical. And they would later come together to write The Heathers and all that other stuff. How does this compare to that, and where do you see the big differences between those? Because I feel like they're kind of part and parcel together.
I think that Reefer Madness is simultaneously more of a parody, less of a Parody Plus. It does have a little bit of heart, but it's more laughs throughout. And depending on which version you watch, I feel like Bat Boy is, I think, a successful and moving story about really like somebody who's gay with conservative Christian parents. I mean, in my mind, right? Or fill in the blank with thing that conservative Christian parents wouldn't want you to be. Whereas the other show, Reefer Madness, it to the extent that it's actually trying to be like drugs are cool, what's wrong with you? People that are anti-drug, like it's a little more abrasive, even though obviously I agree. So yeah, I think Reefer Madness is fun. But I just think it's so much more silly, madcap, and off the wall, and it doesn't actually have as much anchoring, in my opinion, in real emotion, and it doesn't, I don't think, have that much to say when it comes to, or I guess what I really am saying is, it doesn't hit hard, and I don't think that the script of Reefer Madness has the built-in blueprint to emotionally hit you, whereas Bat Boy, if done well, really can.
Let's talk about some of the characters really quick outside of Edgar, because Edgar is obviously the most fully fleshed character in here, where everyone else kind of, they have their arcs and they're very well used in their arcs, but they're goofy. They're archetypes, intentionally so. Like Meredith is probably like the second most developed character outside of Edgar, I'd say.
Yeah. I had some questions about her character a little bit.
All right.
From the point of view of she knows that it's her son, right? Am I thinking with the right character?
Yes, you are, and I'm agreeing with you. But I can tell what you're gonna say, and I'm already agreeing with you.
It doesn't make very much sense the way she acts about him.
Yeah.
She acts as though she has no idea that it's her son, and I mean, maybe it's on purpose, but you would think that would be like the first thing that would come up, at least in her mind, and then of course between her and her husband about this.
Because I rewatched those scenes after finishing it because I really was like, all right, I want to see if they set this up in ways I didn't see. And when it's just her and her husband and like Edgar in there, they don't act like, oh no, our big secrets come back. It's like, what are we going to do about this fucking Bat Boy?
Yeah. Whereas I can't say that the husband character, his reaction could still make sense even with him knowing. It almost feels like he knew, but she didn't. But then at the end she comes in and she's like, no, I knew.
Yeah, I think that and I mean, I was just listening to the early part of the show, just kind of getting my head in the game here. And I think when you look at a song like Home for You, which is the one where Edgar's in a cage, he isn't really responding to anything, and she sings to him, we'll make a home for you. The lyrics all cut both ways.
Yes.
So many lyrics in there are like, basically, that's when I get convinced that they did work to allow you the rewatch value, the replay value. But it is a little weird, and this is going to go to one of my points later, which is, this is one of those shows that starts more clunky, both in terms of craft and I think just the consideration of questions like this, which I guess is the same thing, and improves as it goes along. But yeah, like the early songs in the show, in many cases, which again, I'll talk about, don't actually match the tone or the information of the rest of the show, almost like written by a different team. And I mean, you write shows for 5-10 years sometimes. So like, you can be a different person when you write some songs as you are later. But yeah, I both criticize some choices about Meredith in the early show, but also I think if acted well, the lyrics, particularly starting with Home for You and forward from there, do give a good blueprint and set up the twist. But you're right. The fact that she and Dr. Parker don't kind of like make eye contact and go, is this our weird, messed up kid? Like, you would think that happened off stage or something. That is a little bit deceptive in a way that's hard to buy. But I buy it because twists in musicals, it turns out I'm your parent. I don't know. It's a trope that I think is effective.
It's such a goofy twist that I kind of don't care, but at the same time, it is definitely there and doesn't... It does not make very much sense that, like, she doesn't... Like, you would expect in, like, a movie like this, there would be that scene where they're, like, hushed behind a corner or something, like, I thought you took him to the cave and killed him or whatever, And
an easy way to fix this is just to put Shelley in that scene with them. Like, just where they share a look at Shelley.
So they can't be fully honest. But, like, yeah, the Dance With Me, Darling would have to be cut or reworked because that would be weird with Shelley in the room. He's basically saying, we haven't banged in a long time. Maybe this song we used to dance to will seduce you. Anyway, hi, Shelley.
And I agree with you. And that raised another question of, Brent, who is the main character of the story?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think it's Edgar, though I think that it's the kind of show where the protagonist doesn't really come to the fore as the version of himself we're going to know for a shockingly long amount of time. But, like, I don't think it's Meredith. It is an ensemble piece. And I think the point of your question is that it's hard to know.
Yes.
But I think that the character that has the biggest arc, changes the most, learns something in kind of a Shakespearean or Greek tragedy way is definitely Edgar.
Mm-hmm. Does he even have a proper... I mean, I Want song like in the first half of Act 1.
I think when to be fair, this is like all the way at the end of Act 1. When he prays to God and asks God to take his fangs away... It's not a positive, like, hunchback out there kind of I Want song, but it really tells you. And then he sings Let Me Walk Among You at the beginning of Act 2. It's just like he's because he started out mute, essentially, and only learns to speak and fully actualize his personality, like, toward the second, I think in the second half of Act 1, then him figuring out what he wants takes longer. Like when he says, I never knew a word such as rage. When he's realizing that before he knew words, he didn't have thoughts the same as he does now. And now he knows he's been infected and changed by these ideas and words. And so it takes him a while. But yeah, to me, the prayer in the Act 1 closer and the song Let Me Walk Among You both act as dramatizing his wants, even though unlike most shows, they are way later, because usually the I Want is like song 2 or 3.
Can I throw a directorial pitch at you and see if you like it, Brent?
Sure.
Early on in the show, like his first night there, you know how he kind of mumbles songs at first and he just kind of hums the melodies back at people? What if we just had him do that, but to the melody of Let Me Walk Among You? So we kind of like give him an I Want song moment without us even knowing that was what it was?
To me, I think that is what I would call a hat on a hat. Because the function of, and the thing is, like, if it were done and I caught it, I'd be like, oh, that's a very considered choice. But I don't think he knows enough to know what he wants. I think he's a creature of sheer instinct at that point. Mm-hmm. But when he does the, like, making fun of or mimicking what Shelley and asshole boyfriend are doing, it's like pure instinct. It's pure instinctual noises. And then when he starts singing the melody of what Meredith sung in the song Home for You, to me, if he sang anything else, it wouldn't tell the same story. But that's a great storytelling song because he sings back to her the melody she sang to him. So it's like when an animal learns to trust you.
Right.
And reflects what you want and your affection for them. So it's like if he hummed or otherwise expressed that melody in a way that was organic, maybe in the dialogue or something, that would be a cute, interesting addition, but I think that would only be for like the way that Stephen Sondheim and Howard Ashman hide like little internal rhymes you don't realize are there till the 50th listen, you know? That's how that idea strikes me.
That's even the kind of stuff that I'm looking for when I say this pitch. It's not like a complete stop the show thing. It's just that small thing that happens.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to ask Brent something about other productions of this. The one we saw, Bat Boy has a British accent when he can talk. Is that always the case?
Yes, and if you'll notice, this is actually one thing that's not perfectly dramatized. This is why I sometimes say don't have really, really important information in a lyric because it flies past you on a first listen. But they've been watching BBC. In that big long montage, I'll show you a thing or two. They've set him down in front of the BBC, and then when they do their whole, like, when they're talking about stuff, that butler should be shot. I'm fear out of sandwiches. Like, they're kind of playing like they're all British, but that's how he's learning English. So it makes no sense, but also there's something I think more meek about him, more unassuming about him, and interestingly, in I think the, seminal West End or London version of the show, he spoke with an American accent. And in my opinion, that did not work anywhere near as well. Obviously, over there, they don't interpret a poor little British kind of thing. They don't interpret it the same. But, like, he could have had whatever their equivalent is to
French accent.
Something. French accent, oh my God. Or like even like a Southern thing. Like we've been watching country music videos. Something that sets him apart, that makes him a little bit naive and a little bit cuter, because he's not an attractive looking character.
I think it works really well in America because we have this interpretation of British accents as like more civilized and intelligent.
Right.
Yeah, so it's
the
like
juxtaposition.
Yeah, it's like, oh, the Bat Boy's actually more intelligent than the people around him.
Right. But it also has the effect of making it feel a tiny bit more Shakespearean, a little bit more heightened, a little bit more of a melodramatic, large character who, it would be silly if he was really like that. But in the context, you ideally kind of buy it, and it kind of rounds his character out really nicely, I think.
Mm-hmm.
There is a funny joke that in Britain they would have him have an American accent.
It struck me as so
for like
strange.
5 minutes, and then it'd be like, all right, well, this is painful.
As far as otherizing him, that could be effective, but if it's just like Midwestern American...
It's like the opposite of what you would get over here, because in Britain, American accents are like, oh, you're dumb.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you're every movie we watch, but also you don't understand geography, and your healthcare system sucks. Yeah, it is a good question. I wonder if any English listeners would have an equivalent, because this kind of thing is so difficult. It's not a science. There's no science to it. It's trial and error.
A northern English accent,
their equivalent would just be another British accent, because they're just
honestly,
so full of themselves.
Maybe it's like Manchester, Hampshire, Scottish, Irish.
Liverpool.
Wouldn't that be interesting? Oh, I like your blood. I want to marry my sister.
What? No, John Lennon, don't marry your sister.
My mom was a woman. My dad was a pair of bats.
Oh, no.
Wow.
Now, that ending, though. Can we talk about the ending just like a little bit?
Let's go.
Yeah.
Okay. What the hell were they thinking?
They're thinking, I bet they won't see this twist coming.
I think it's such an unimportant, twist, too, I feel like. I don't even think you had to explain where the Bat Boy came from, to be honest. I think you just had to say, the mother, Meredith wants him alive, and Mr. Parker, or Dr. Parker wants him dead, and that would be enough.
There is a strangely incestuous kind of feeling between the mother and Edgar, because Dr. Parker gets so jealous when she's just going to protect Edgar and not him.
True.
It is a vibe I'm getting where everyone kind of wants to fuck Edgar.
It's
Everyone
such a
wants
trope,
to
though.
fuck Edgar.
It's such a common thing, and maybe this is just because I don't know, I'm a little older than y'all. I've seen so many of my friends have kids that in heterosexual relationships, or in general, who the partner in a relationship that births the child has a certain connection, and the other person, stereotypically the husband, can feel shut out, can feel like he's not being paid attention to. So, I mean, again, acting is such a huge part of this, but I think that you could play it as incestuous, or it can just be she's much more obsessed with her child than her husband, who she's hated all these years, and he's jealous because this other thing is taking all her attention away.
I was going to say that I think the jealousy between father and child can exist as well. Although he's not the father, which I think makes it even more of a jealousy thing.
But she's his wife, I think, is the thing. So in a way, there's another thing pulling her away from him, and it's the reason she hasn't been a warm, affectionate wife to him. That's how I interpret it, is that now this thing that they got out of their lives is back, and it's taking his resources and hurting him in a way.
Did we explain how the ending happened, though? I feel like we never did.
Go for it, Andrew. Wish you the best of luck.
A long, long time ago, Dr. Parker and Meredith worked together, and they were creating pheromones to make cows have sex. But it didn't work. So Dr. Parker was like, well, what if I made it super strong? And he did, and then I guess he decided the right thing to do to test it was put it all over Meredith. I don't know why. I don't know how this happened. Was that explained? Either way.
I think it was. This is the part. I've listened to the album so much more, but this is the part of the show that is wild.
I feel like it was an accidental spill, to be honest.
Okay.
If that's the vibe I got.
And he went primal and did the bad stuff. And then she ran home, and bats chase after her, and then also did some bad stuff. And then she had two children. One Shelley, the daughter, and one Edgar, the bad boy.
So does that mean Shelley is half bat too?
No.
Well, now are they fraternal twins? Maybe I forgot that part.
No, because they're
came
two
out at the
different
same
fathers.
time.
It's two different fathers.
Okay, yeah, I'm just making sure. Yeah, she ended up having two children, but one with this, different parentage. It's weird though, because it's like they set it up as an amalgam, right? Like the father had sex with her, it was not consensual, but then a bunch of bats did some things, and so in a way, it's sort of suggesting human and bat DNA spliced together, as is a common occurrence we all know. Happens all the time.
That's how
mostly to people in zoos. I was wondering. No.
He is the bad boy.
I am the bad boy.
I don't understand why they did this. I feel like there was other ways you could have done this somehow. Maybe even just have it where, like, the bat boy just is, like, she gave birth and it's a bat somehow, and it's not really explained.
Andrew, know what this comes to me as? It comes to me as, like, two edgelord people, like, just chatting with each other. You know, it'd be real fucked up. No one would see it coming. Man, okay, you think we could get away with this? It's the same mindset I think that Dear Evan Hansen created. Like, dude, do you think we could actually get away with this?
It does feel like a show that they started as a gag, and then it grew into a show with more heart. But I wonder if the explanation and the twist was one of the earlier things they wrote, bookend style. Because I think it's wise to write your opener and your last 10 minutes first. So you know where you're headed, you know where you started. But when I watched the video of the original cast, I really thought this was so extra. Like, not only was the twist, like, the explanation, like, oh, okay, that's a choice, but the amount of time it took for them to recount the whole flashback when the show is, like, ramping up, Act 2's gone a little bit long, and now we're doing this whole flashback. Could have been a little faster, but interestingly, I think that certain companies have found out how to do it better. The high school one I saw had dual projectors with, like, old sepia tone film with videos of what they're describing. So in a way, instead of it being this long monologue, like in freaking Antigone or something, you're really watching it and it's rounding out the storytelling in a way that doesn't feel like, oh my God, just let this show wrap up already.
Yeah.
So like, I think that if they were to revise it, shorten it, make it a little more simple, I think it could be better. But at the same time, what was the audience signing up for watching a Bat Boy musical? You know what I mean? It's still a Bat Boy show.
I don't even think it was that bad. I do agree. I think it just needs to be shorter and maybe not played for laughs in the same way that it was in the version we watched, because it's not particularly funny, and they definitely played it for laughs.
If not for the assault by Dr. Parker, I think there'd be a different way to establish why as a marriage they fell apart, or rather became cold to each other, without him having had done that, because I think that we can think of bats swarming around you and doing weird things to you.
It's kind of silly. It's like...
Yeah. And maybe it's like, even like maybe they just, so many of them bit her and got into her bloodstream. Like it's all... it's all sci-fi shit anyway. But I think the real problem is the assault by her husband. Unnecessary, and something that if they were to write it today, they'd probably be like, hey, or not.
Let's just snip that little bit out. I did contact a few of my friends who were in this, because my college put this on. I was not able to get tickets because it was such a small engagement. It was basically in the round. And they had like little fishing wire with a bunch of bats attacking the actress, and they're like acting it out as it's happening. So that was how they did that. And I think that's equally as interesting and effective.
Yeah, well, that's how the original cast did it, but again, it felt like it was too late in the show to do that much of an exposition dump, whereas that high school production I keep mentioning, they just found a way to make it more entertaining and more like, I don't know, you were getting so much more information. You didn't just have to be like, oh my God, you're just telling me all this stuff.
I take a lot of umbrage with the opening of Wicked for similar reasons, where they just like dump a bunch of exposition at you and flashbacks just to pay it off in like one line at the end. But maybe something like this, where we kind of get like a little montage of things happening and like bats attacking a woman, and then we get further context at the end, so that it's more of a payoff rather than a twist.
I feel like it spoils too much. You would see it coming too much.
That's kind of how I feel. Like, I think maybe, Jess, it's possible that you and I just feel different about twists, because to me, a good Act 2 twist, even if like you go, oh, okay, this is corny, like of course it was, they were the mom all the time. Right. I love that feeling of, oh shit, it was there all the time. Oh my God. Like, and I'll trade in a lot of suspension of disbelief to get a good one of those, but they're not for everybody. But not everybody likes them as much.
I really like those, which has like the perfect musical theater twist, and they show them on stage together with that theme playing in the first scene.
Yeah, music theory nerds know by the time, before the end of Act 1, the twist in Sweeney Todd, but most people don't, because she's so gross. Like, his wife, I guess, is just so nasty and talking about, I don't even know if this is okay for your show. She's like, how'd you like to split me muff? It's like, gross.
We'll go
Yeah, it's like, you can't be the lady he was in love with. Get out of here.
Yeah.
They do it well.
Yeah, I think the twist in here is fine. I really just wish that the mother character showed it more. I really felt like that ruined the second rewatch, where I'm gonna go back and be like, man, they didn't play this up at all. I will say,
we will get to songs later. In 3-Bedroom House, her reaction that is like the best reaction that can be taken in many
but
ways.
That's so close to the end.
I agree.
I feel like they don't do it earlier on like that much. I'm sure some of the songs have lyrics that I missed, but I feel like in all of the like easier to read scenes where she's just talking, it's not shown through at all.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you don't mind us transferring onto other people's opinions, Brent, but it's time to compare our opinions to those of the New York theater critics. It is time for Bree Views. Bree, what have we got today?
Okay. Wow, it's been a minute. Okay, so we have a review from Bruce Weber of the New York Times. So he said, of the original off-Broadway production, even if high camp is not your style, Bat Boy the musical that opened yesterday at the Union Square Theater may very well make you laugh. It's remarkable what intelligent wit can accomplish even within an outlandish frame. derived from a dubious tabloid story about the discovery in a West Virginia cave of a creature who is half boy, half vampire bat. It must be the first theatrical show to cite in the program a licensing agreement with the Weekly World News. The show is a tongue-in-cheek gothic morality tale bent on revealing the bat in all of us and urging us to know your bat boy / love your bat boy / don't deny your beast inside.
I just wanted, that opening is so great. I love this review so much. This is like one of those really rare, very well written off-Broadway reviews. It just shows you the difference when you don't have a Ben Brantley at the helm, how clear and how what they're trying to say is very effective. Bree, keep going.
Mr. O'Keefe also wrote the score, and with Alex Lacamoire, the musical director, provided the arrangements for a 5-piece rock band. The music is tuneful, particularly in its harmonically inventive duets. Otherwise, it is largely devoted to satirizing Broadway schmaltz. Fans of Andrew Lloyd Webber and Frank Wildhorn, beware. From the moment a group of slacker spelunkers descends from the rafters into the darkness where the Bat Boy dwells, this cave rocks, and in their excitement, fire up a bong. The show is a jaggedly imaginative mix of skewering and self-puncturing humor.
Let's just go with the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. This was Alex Lackamore's first musical directing job, and he is now like the orchestrator for Hamilton and Dear Evan Hansen and all of that. He is, and because of this, the same producer of this introduced him to one Lin-Manuel Miranda because he was also producing the original version of In the Heights. So,
oh wow,
this show's got roots that go all the way back and are still affecting us to this day. And Alex Lackamore is like the go-to like musical arranger for most Broadway shows at this point. So I just find that interesting that this weird off-Broadway show jump-started one of the most promising careers in Broadway history.
Yeah.
All right, Bree, how much more we got?
3 paragraphs.
Let's just skip to the second to last one. Let's skip this one, actually, now.
The show could probably lose 20 minutes. Parody always wears out its welcome after a while, but Mr. Schwartz coordinates it all with swiftness and good cheer. He previously worked with Mr. O'Keefe on The Mice, a kooky mini-musical about an adulterous exterminator that was the opening act in 3, which was staged in Philadelphia last fall. In addition to rodent inspiration, Bat Boy shares with Mice a quirky comic sense, sweet in its way, but also fervid, wicked, and art. This may be conclusive evidence that Mr. Schwartz has a better touch with humor than sobriety, especially considering that Jane Eyre, the Broadway show that he directed with John Carrot, is so deadeningly sincere.
That's not a real word, Mr. Weber.
Deadeningly, I guess.
I will use all of the endings for a word, just all at once.
Deadeningly scrumptious flungadums.
And the Mr. Schwartz who directed this that he refers to is actually the son of one Stephen Schwartz and has also more recently directed The Prince of Egypt in West End, which was a much worse show than this.
Are you telling me people with high positions of power in the creative arts are usually children of other people with powers and high positions in the creative arts? Because I won't stand for that argument. That's impossible.
It's impossible. Let's ask our good friend Ben Platt about this.
Nailed it. Bullseye.
I mean, we all agree with that review. I feel like that's a fairly fair description of what it is and a fairly effective critique of it probably could lose 20 minutes.
I agree. And I'll talk about
the 20 minutes that it should lose is some of the exposition at the end. And I don't even know where else. I feel like that was 20 minutes in itself. The revival song is a little long, but I don't know about...
Giant disagree.
I don't know about losing it.
The children, like Disney Lion King / Little Mermaid parody is so unnecessary. Like, it's a good laugh that you need in Act 2, I guess, but there's laughs throughout the show.
Well, if Act 2 was shorter, you wouldn't need that laugh.
That's true. And I think the What You Wanna Do song, which I'll criticize more later, but is actually not necessary to be a song. And if you just did the What You Want to Do song in dialogue and skipped the Children song, that would probably buy a little bit more patience for the exposition at the end. And then if you snipped a little bit off that, I think it would be a much more zippy show.
Can't disagree there. But you know what? How about we go into a mid-show and then we come back and we talk about a bunch of the songs? Does that sound a good idea?
All right.
Today's show is brought to you by the extremely kind donations by our donors at Patreon. You can go to Patreon if you'd like to donate some money to us to help us continue to run the show. You can also see all of our lovely faces right now. And by all of ours, I mean just Brent and me. Everyone else is gone. Okay, our current patrons are, and here we go. Melissa Goldman, Terry Nittleman, John Donna, Leighton Ackles, Danielle Renix, Jess the Stampede, Ewan Cassidy, Tass Skier, Fire of September, Monica Thoreau, Mina Maneri, Brent Black, Haley Murray, Nathaniel Stacy Coombe, Joseph Evans Green, Carrie Ahern, Mary Lou Choquette, John Vanals, Russ Walker, Musical Hell, Emily Gracie, To Blam, Kyle Summers, Janae C, Scoot in the Technicolor Dreamcoat, Felice A, Liz Lim, Allison Stoller, Nothing is Certain Except Beth and Taxes, John Vanals, Thespian, Bren Cullen, Wait in the Wings, Rafael Martinez Salas, Robert Benjamin, Rachel T, Jessica T, Cass, Mitchell Young, Chai Teacup, Katie McDonough, Timothy Keys, Jeffrey Machado, Chris Marcotte, Timimu Robinson, Kiji Marie Anastasio, Leela, RJ Noriga, Sebastian Canino, Avon Reagan, Lizzie Keynes, Charlie B, Patrick Deering, Julia McLannon, Courtney Schreiner, Joe, Avery Brinson, Mary Lynn Brown, Mel Cormack, Thomas W, and La Femme Fictionale.
They give us a little extra financial support that helps us keep the lights on here at Musicals with Cheese. If you'd like to join them in supporting us, you get tons of fun perks such as patron-only commentaries, our episodes a day early, or even earlier, a full-on Patreon with Cheese podcast that's only for patrons. We just did Everybody's Talking About Jamie, and we're about to do Co-op, the musical, you know, the John Mulaney bullshit. Come check us out over at Patreon. Also, I think Andrew mentioned, you can probably see all of our beautiful faces. Oh, Brent's doing a backflip. Holy shit, how'd you do that, Brent? Oh my god. Oh my god.
He's hanging from the ceiling like a bat.
He's turning into a bat boy. You guys are missing it unless you're on the Patreon. In fact, I can see right on the tip of his bat boy lips, he just wants to say, join their Patreon. I know he wants to say it. Oh no!
He wanted to say it, but he couldn't.
He really wanted to, but he didn't.
He's mouthing it.
You can only see his lips doing this for on Patreon. It's
I don't even know if he knows.
All right, let's get back to the show. Oh,
genuinely cannot hear you, Brent.
Yeah, if this isn't a bit.
He was dragged from his home and thrown down at the edge of a coal mining town.
They stripped him of his dignity. They beat him like a gong. And he was kicked repeatedly. And that was wrong. So wrong. Oh, the bad boy. Touch the bad boy. Touch him. To the love. The bad boy. Save the bad boy.
So, Hold Me Bat Boy. That opening number, I will say this is probably the closest thing to an earworm in this musical.
I only the Patreon people can see that my jaw just fell off of my head.
Jess didn't get the show. He didn't even watch it. No research.
Holy no, stop that shit.
You think that you feel, and again, I know I've been disagreeing with you a lot, Jess. I'm not trying to shoot you down. I'm really not trying to shoot you down, but to you, the opener and very end epilogue closer is the catchiest song in the show?
How do you not just leave going, hold me, bad boy?
Well, you do that because it's the last song you heard, but...
No, I do it because it's like the most catchy one. I mean, there's other ones I can sing from it, but this is the one that's like, that sums up the show in and of itself.
It is catchy, I'll give you that.
Yeah. I'm not talking, that isn't me saying like it's the only one, but I'm saying it's the most for me personally.
Gotcha.
I mean, it is catchy, and I think that it is really fun. At first, when I first heard it, I was like, what the heck are they talking about? Hold me, bat boy. Especially, like, for the first little while, I was like, what did this song mean? But then when you get to the end, you're like, oh.
Yeah, I think they're doing that thing where, like, they set up a tone that makes you go, what? But it's just getting your brain ready for the world you're entering. You know what I always do on this show, which is even if I like a show, I criticize some of the lyrics, and I've always found it weird that it starts out with, in a cave many miles to the south. It's like, we don't even know where the fuck you are. To the south of what? Many miles to the south?
It's in South Virginia.
Yeah, exactly. There are many directions of Virginia's. South gets overlooked over and over again. They don't even have a senator. But yeah, no, I mean, it's one of those openers that I don't think it functions the way that, like, you know, your Beauty and the Beast, even your Little Shop, those kind of openers. It's just a tone setter. Actually, you know what, Jess? You might have had a point more than I realized with the Little Shop comparison, because the opener of Little Shop doesn't say that much, but it gets you ready for weird, spooky stuff in a shalala 1960s pop feel. So it is kind of a, you know, half contentless in its actual, like, you know, there's not much to it, but what it's doing is getting the audience's brain ready for the weird thing they're about to see.
It's a tonal opening.
Yeah. And then to your point, Jess, as well, it ends in a way that, you know, it wraps it around, changes the words slightly, and you're like, oh shit, oh, I get it, you know. So in that way, it's well done. It's just like not my fave per se.
No, and I don't think that this is my favorite song of the show. It's the one that sticks in my head the most. There is a thing that happens a lot in this show that bothers me, and I don't know if it bothers you as much, but there's a lot of repeating what another person says. Sometimes that works very well, like when you've got Edgar and it's for a point, and then later when, like in 3 Bedroom Home, where they're just kind of repeating back and forth what the other person said.
Yeah.
It drives me crazy a little bit, and I don't know why it drives me crazy. It's just, it feels like a crutch that they lean on a lot.
There's a lot of call and response style stuff, like in Christian Charity, which I think of as the actual opener. The mom keeps saying Shelley quiet in a way that's like, and you know, I'll get into that. Well, I mean, we're already there, right?
Let's talk about Christian Charity.
I didn't know where else to take it.
Mom, Shelley, quiet.
Can't go to jail, he's underage.
Mom, Shelley, quiet.
Folks up at the med school bet they carve him up or bake him. I'd send the FBI a page, but I don't think we're at that stage. So, here he is, folks, he's all yours. Couldn't leave him out of doors, creeping on all fours. We could always shoot him, but that don't seem right to me. I can't rid myself of my Christian Charity.
It's effective. Like, to me, again, like I say, I think the craft of the show and the momentum of the show starts out less good than it, and the miracle of that is that I still end up loving the show, even though it's overlong and has a slow start. Because usually you want your first 10 minutes of a show to explode into a world we want to stick around in for 2 hours. And I don't know that this does that in the first 10 minutes. But anyway, you know, Meredith, the mom, kept saying, Shelley, quiet. And it makes it seem like that's their dynamic, but you don't see much of that dynamic for the rest of the show. And maybe that's to sort of set up like they have an arc and get closer along the you know, duration of the show, but it's like the next scene you don't get any of that energy, and it is very repetitive. Shelley, quiet, and like throughout the show there's that stuff. Like for some reason, in 3 Bedroom House, Meredith says a town gone insane, and Shelley says kind of thought they would. And it's like you're just rhyming and doing a thing to fill that space. You thought they would. You thought they would go insane when what? In the beginning of the thing, like. You know what I mean?
Just little jokes for the audience, and I think
little chucklies.
And some of them work, and some of them actually are organic and feel like a conversation. I mean, one good thing about them is that sometimes, like the movie version of The Last 5 Years is the worst about this. Sometimes a character is singing to another character for a long time, and the other character is just facially responding. But in real life, over the course of a 3-minute monologue of stuff, the other person would at least be like, well, I don't know about that, or okay, I guess you're right there. You know what I'm saying?
Anything.
Yeah, and so in a way, it makes the conversations a little more realistic. But then again, a lot of times I'm like, I'm not sure I buy that you would say that there. But it does make it more conversational.
But it does, I think a lot of that has to do with Carrie Butler's delivery, especially in 3 Bedroom Home, because I'm used to the album. It's like, Carrie Butler feels like she's singing to the back of the audience no matter what line she's given.
Yeah, I like a lot of her choices, and there are a few that I'm like for instance, when she does the wiki kind of stuff in What You Want to Do, the way I interpret it in the script is she's like, wiki, and then looks at her boyfriend and goes, what? And he goes, you're so hot. But like in the cast album, she's like, wiki, what? And it's like, okay, that's an interpretation.
What is that?
Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, whatever. She obviously is very talented and got the role for a reason.
Mm-hmm. How about we move on to A Home for You between Meredith and the Bat Boy?
Poor little person with eyes so sad, where in the dark did they hide you? What have you seen that could teach you that haunted stare? Poor little creature, it makes me mad to think of the childhood denied you. But give me a chance and we'll make it all right, I swear. 'Cause we're not here to harm you or make you feel ashamed. You can make mistakes here and you won't be blamed. So show us how to help you, and if we pull you through, then we will find a home for you.
Yeah, Home for You, which is the first moment where Meredith shows her sympathetic side, where anyone really shows their sympathetic side in this. And it's the first quote unquote emotional connection song, since we've kind of been like yucks and jokes up to this point. And I think it's very well integrated into it. It doesn't throw you off immediately the way that a lot of okay, and now here's a little bit of a sappier moment can
I
feel.
like it, and I like the Bat Boy humming along.
Yes.
A lot. I thought that was really cool. I kind of thought that was going to be all he did, and then he starts talking. So it took a wild turn, but I do like that they start him out like this.
Yeah, it really nails multiple tones at the same time. Like the way they chose to have Edgar sing falsetto gets a laugh in most productions at first. And then when he's doing the ooh, I can't hit the notes right now without yelling. But he's doing this almost choral ooh, toward the end, and it's funny, but also it's a very pretty song. He's doing this lilting choral melody. So it really does, it's a little bit touching and a little bit funny, and I think it really works. It's very pretty.
It's that fine line, that Little Shop line where it's very sincere but also funny because of how sincere it's playing it.
Yes. Though at the end when she's like, see, look, I made a stew. Look at that and go,
yeah.
Did you just run out of ooh rhymes? Because I mean, I guess her feeding him and him eating, he finally eats from the thing. So, I mean, that's a connection. But it felt like a weird, I don't know, a first thought lyric when I first heard it.
It's also where I thought they were going to set up that he only eats human blood or something.
Yeah.
Because he was throwing up with the stew.
Yeah.
But they didn't go quite that direction. It was more just he likes blood in general.
Yeah.
Speaking of horrible people that like blood, let's talk about Dance With Me, Darling.
Dance with me, darling, we haven't danced since I don't know when. Do you remember that song, Meredith? Dance with me, darling, won't you embrace me? Kiss me in case we don't meet again. I've heard a rumor, barely a whisper, claiming that we were through. So dance with me, darling, show them that it's not true.
Mm-hmm.
This song is uncomfortable in the way that I think the writers intended it to be.
Yeah, Dr. Parker is horrible, and I think you're supposed to think that.
Yeah, he's a very nuanced villain, though, I have to say. For a show that, has such archetypal we're Southern ranchers and we like church revivals. Like, he could be like, he's not.
Right. He's not.
He does some bad shit. He's irredeemable, but he's not. He doesn't lack nuance. It's a very weird song, and the idea that like, oh really, y'all are basically in present day, and this is a song you used to like back in the day. This 1940s mambo, this song that sounds like. I mean, again, that's really really spicy opinion, and it doesn't really bother me, but it is uncomfortable because it's a catchy little fun number. One of the more fun ones we've had so far. And it is simultaneously about marital strife and marital decay.
Just wants to get his rocks off.
Yeah, exactly. Ugh.
The other thing that gets weird about this song is you would think he would have a harsher reaction to seeing the Bat Boy again right away, you know?
Yeah, and I think that again, I didn't specifically like go over and really pay close attention to the performance of the actors that I saw. But I think that the script perhaps leaves it a little too vague and a little too open so that certain companies and directors can do it worse. And maybe the script actually doesn't help at all and goes against that. But it's like, if you're in previews of a show and people keep saying, I saw the twist coming, you'll make a lot of sacrifices to make sure they don't,
I mean, I'd rather the twist make sense than maybe one or two people seeing it coming, if that makes sense.
I feel like it would be it might be a little more interesting if he has this really harsh reaction to seeing the Bat Boy, but it's not quite explained why.
Right. Or it could just be because he's like really, really like, oh, that's all gross.
Yeah.
Right, like a line like, what is this thing doing here? Like right. One of those like, and it might be in there and I just forgot, like one of those dual meaning lines that you can do just right. Because if he said, you, like, okay, that gives the whole thing away.
Well, yeah, you can't give the whole game away.
Can't do that.
But like, it feels a little odd because he comes in and he's like, oh my goodness, this Bat Boy is ugly. Also, like, man, we should have sex.
Not to get too far afield from the thing he wants every day and every night. Oh, there's a weird Bat Boy? Interesting. Will you please touch my pee-pee?
This Bat Boy that I was supposed to have killed years ago is now in my home and my wife is interested in keeping it alive. We should have sex.
Yeah, maybe I could leverage that for the thing I want.
So hard right now. Let's go. Well, Bree's shaking her head. That means I've gone one step too far.
It does feel a little bit out of character once you see the ending and it's like, wait, this is like a monster that he gave birth to. Like, wouldn't he be like horrified that it's around? I don't know.
Well, isn't that the idea, though? He wants to kill it, and she's like, don't. And then he's like, will you have sex with me? And she's like, fine. And he's like, hooray, I'm going to dance around now.
That is what happens, yeah.
This is a plot of a musical, guys.
It's a goofball. It's goofy. They play it goofy enough. These aren't like real criticisms. I'm just saying.
No, we're playing a goof, and then like it's not good faith criticism there, not at all. All right, Brent, what's the next song you want to talk about?
Well, I just want to quickly touch on Show You a Thing or Two.
Yes.
So I think musical theater is a uniquely difficult form of storytelling in which to do sort of a training montage, kind of like, seeing the progression of something that probably realistically, well, we're not in realistic terms, but even by the show's terms, certainly weeks or months. And I just think it's done really well. And to be fair, it does get a little over elaborate right at the end. Like it just refuses to end. But I just think it's really good. It's a tentpole number we need at that point in the show. And totally off topic, I think it's good. And I appreciate the fact that in Edgar's essay, he says that man is nephew to an ape rather than descended from an ape. Love that scientific correctness. Way to go. Well done.
It also flows off the tongue better than descendant. Nephew just feels right. Like, that's one of those words that also just feel right when you say it.
And it feels more erudite and British, which is what, the audience is introducing you to with him there. Those are my thoughts on Show You a Thing or Two.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like a modern major general in its kind of form, but it is doing so much. You're right. Like, lyrically, this is probably where it's the strongest.
Yeah, this show has really good, like it has when it okay, what am I trying to say? It has songs that get you from point A to point B. And some musicals don't. Like, you look at Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. Well, it's a farce, so it wasn't supposed to. But those songs take you from A to slightly bigger A. Whereas this show has so many songs that really do move the plot forward, and I think this might be the best one.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Fantastic.
Which is almost why this plot feels so convoluted in some places, because they're able to just keep moving the plot through songs that are so short that it's just like something is just happening all the time. There's never a dull moment.
Yeah.
There was a thought I was having while watching it, where it feels like the book writers and the songwriters are not always on the same wavelength with one another. It feels like there's a lack of communication between them sometimes. Like, it feels like the book, it gels in one way and the songs gel in another way, and then you mix it together and it isn't quite a chocolate and peanut butter. Not that the tastes are wrong, it's just not perfect yet.
Yeah. And I do think that goes to what I was saying about sometimes it feels like two shows in one, like a marble cake. And like there's parody elements. There's a parody song here. There's the, what you want to do with the sort of making fun of hip hop. And then and it makes you wonder if the book writers wrote the whole story out and then it was adapted, or if they were like, if Lawrence O'Keefe was like, I need a scene here in between these things. But there is some disconnect. It doesn't necessarily feel like they sewed the Frankenstein monster's parts up enough perfectly and seamlessly to make it seem like it was all one thing.
Completely agree. Yeah, I feel like that's the biggest issue. But then we got a great song like Comfort and Joy.
You little creep, you're gonna pay. I will be shoved out of the way. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. And I could make a solid case for smashing in your filthy face. Shut up. Shut up. I got a spade and a burlap sack. And there's a hole in the yard out back. But if I fill it, she'll ask me why. So I've got one thing to do before you die. Wait, she will see what you are. I will win back my bride. She herself will decide to get rid of the boy. She'll admit she was wrong. She'll return before long. She'll be singing a song full of comfort and joy.
I love a good Act 1 closer where everyone's plan is recapped with a cliffhanger at the end. Can't get enough of that.
Best come back for Act 2. Don't want to miss what happens, everybody.
We're going to send you rocking to the restroom, as they say in Gutenberg the musical.
I feel like any song where Bat Boy is singing from the point where he can talk onward is generally pretty good. Except for, there's not really that many exceptions. Bat Boy is just really good on stage when he's singing. So yeah. I really like all of them. But yeah, the Act 1 closer was pretty solid for what it is. And yeah, I mean, it's a Bat Boy show. What do you want?
I just love that as an idea for like a poster blurb. Pretty solid for what it is.
I mean, it's Bat Boy. I mean, I don't know. I had fun with a lot of the songs. They go through a lot of music styles, and I don't know if I have any specific talking points on this song.
You see,
I like most of them, to be honest.
It is, man, we haven't really talked about much of the ensemble because really we really want to focus on the family, and this is kind of one of those songs where they're so involved and so important to what's going to happen.
Yeah.
What do we think of the ensemble? What do we think of the people that aren't a part of the Parker family?
Everyone's playing so many parts. It's kind of ridiculous. Like, I think I was looking on the wiki for this, and they were saying that, like, it's like a 10-person show with 23 characters or something like that. Like, it's kind of absurd how many roles that they're having each one of these ensemble members play.
Yeah, and I think that's a real symptom of Off-Broadway. Like, Con, my Parody Plus show, I hope. I talked to some producers about it when it was like a cast of 12 or 13, and the producers that know Off-Broadway were like, you want to get that fucker down to 8, maybe 10, but you need to get that thing down to 8 because the Off-Broadway market is hard. It's actually harder than Broadway in a certain sense. And so, yeah, them getting a cast of 10 and having lots of doubling is very endemic specifically to Off-Broadway, whereas community theater, they might be like, the more the merrier. Let's get so-and-so's grandpa. You get one line, little Timmy, But
Everyone
yeah,
who auditioned, get to the part.
yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Like the show does have an amalgam of tones that, to me, gel well enough. But the townspeople are not nuanced. They are a monolith of we're facing poverty. You know, like they're yokels, and you know, you've got like the sheriff is kind of half and half.
The sheriff's the only one who sticks by Bad Boy.
Yeah.
The whole show, for the most part.
Yeah.
I think the townspeople are mostly just a joke. I already said the one joke where the whole family dies, basically. But then there's other jokes where the cattle farmers they think that there's something killing all their cows, and we're led to believe it's Bat Boy, but they say it's just because they're trying to raise cows on the side of a mountain.
Yeah, that's a great gag.
But
and
like,
a great payoff.
It's like, yeah, it is a great gag, and I think sometimes if you shroud or package sort of like information that's going to be a twist later, misleading information and a bit of a mystery, if you can shroud and package that in something really goofy, it's like the audience might not be like, ooh, wait, I'm putting things together.
Right.
It's like, oh, these goofballs. And it does seem like you're going to find out Edgar's been somehow going off and killing these cows, and that ratchets up the tension of, oh, when they find out, when they prove it, he's dead, you know, when in fact, no. And I think, you know, this show has a lot to say about not just religion, but things that can feel kind of similar to religion if you come from like a non-religious perspective, believing things, jumping to conclusions. But anyway, yeah. I think the townspeople, though, they serve their purpose, though they are the least nuanced characters in the show, for sure. That being said, I love Comfort and Joy. I love the part where Edgar prays to God and asks him to take away his fangs. One of the biggest emotional moments in the show because I just get it. We all have something that it's like, God, I wish I wasn't like this. I wish something could take this thing away. And it's one of the first points in the show where if you haven't been emotional up to this point, you might. This is where it happens for me.
Let's go on to A Joyful Noise. I know this is one of Brent's favorite songs in the entire world. He said so earlier.
Make a joyful noise, my soul.
Make a joyful noise, my soul.
Oh, the lion will lie down with the lambs, and will walk hand in hand with Abraham. He will cry to the sky, Jesus, here I am. Make a joyful noise, my soul. Hello?
Noise, my soul.
Make some noise. Make some noise. Make some noise. My soul is all singing loud, singing strong all night long. Make a joyful noise, a joyful noise, my soul.
Beats out any of Beethoven, Mozart, suck a dick. A Joyful Noise is where it's at. No, I mean, okay, you got to start Act 2 with a bang, if at all possible, especially in a comedy. I, first off, love a good musical theater gospel song. This, I think, is actually slightly closer to authentic than some musical theater gospel songs, like Gonna Build a Mountain. Like, that's not. Or like Run Freedom Run. Those are
How
like.
does this compare to I Love My Dead Gay Son from Heathers, which is another gospel song that opens Act 2?
Yeah, oh, that's interesting. I haven't thought of that. I really like this one. And one thing I'll say is I've never quite gotten on board with the way the crowd is so unenthused when they repeat what the pastor sings at the first part of the thing. Like, it's a very hard joke to sell. The pastor goes, make a joyful noise, my soul. And then the crowd goes, make a joyful noise, my soul. Like, they're off key, they're unenthused, and that's the thing. People do that, especially Catholics. No offense, Catholics, but you sing hymns. You sing hymns like your parents are forcing you to, and you're grumpy about it.
They are.
But, I mean, I would be. Jeez. But the thing is, right after that, the crowd's like, on this brand new day. And it's like, wait, you were just unenthused. And then after they're all excited doing that part, they forget to sing. And the pastor's like, hello? It's just inconsistent. They can't decide what they want to do there. And it
What's
feels
the
like.
joke?
They wanted a gag, but the gag didn't fit.
Right. Well, it's just very hard, I think, to have the gag be that the singers as a group are bad, because when people in a group sing badly in this setting, there's a lot of other reasons that might be. So it's hard to sell it because you're like, can they not hear? Why do they do? Are they actually shitty? What's going? You know what I mean?
What happened?
But yeah, I think it's a banger, and I think the way that it bookends the next song is very good. Without it bookending the next song, it would be a fluffy, let's get back into it with a fun little tune. But I think it actually has storytelling purpose in the way that it's reprised after the next song.
Which the next song is probably the most important song in the entire musical, which is Let Me Walk Among You, the Bat Boys' big number.
Let me walk among you. Let me show my face. I could learn to live with you. I can earn my place. I will move a mountain. Your wish is my command. And someday you may want to shake my hand. I will paint your houses. I'll milk your cows at dawn. I will do your laundry, and I will mow your lawn. Let me file your taxes. I am a CPA, and maybe then you'll shake my hand someday.
I think this is one of the best songs
I agree.
in the show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bat
Boy sells it. He kills it. And it's kind of a shame that immediately afterwards it all gets ruined, but...
Yeah, we don't get a moment of happiness.
I think that's the thing, though. The end of this sequence with the joyful noise reprise is so joyful. It is so exciting. Watching on YouTube, there's a bootleg of the original cast, and watching the elation of the audience and hearing the explosive applause. And of course, the guy, Devin May, who played Edgar, hit an A, like a high A flat. So you clap for that anyway, generally. But yeah, Let Me Walk Among You is one of those songs where I have problems with the lyrics, but the idea behind it and the music this song can legitimately make me cry. And for those that don't know, obviously this is a song where the pastor has said, Edgar has said, I want to be healed. I want to be saved. And then he just, comes and I guess the pastor touches his head, and then Edgar sings a song about, let me just be part of your society. And some issues I have, like, he's listing all the things that people do that he wants to do. Kind of like that Hunchback of Notre Dame movie thing where, like, he's listing the things he sees people do and wants to do them too. But when he says going to work, building your schools... How many schools are being built that, like, he can see out the window? I don't know. That's like, as opposed to going to school. I don't know.
Dude, it's South Virginia.
Let me file
there's
your
a lot of
taxes.
building
I
schools
am a
going.
CPA. That one bothers
me. Now look,
me.
Jess, let me file your taxes. I am a CPA is my favorite joke in the whole show.
Are you kidding me?
Oh,
all right.
Again, I wonder, because I've seen it done badly. That high school version I saw, he did like the YMCA arms on CPA, and it landed with a thud. But in the original version, Devin May he's just as proud of it as anything. He's like trying to say, like, I can help you with your taxes. I am a CPA. Like, he's been stuck at home and he got certified as an accountant. Oh my God, that's so funny. But the rhyme scheme in the bridge always hits me weird. The way they said it in the music, and it feels like class rhymes with part, even though it then wraps around to end with glass. So glass and class rhyme, but the way it's set really, like, takes me out of it. It's so bad. Not bad. It's just so spicy and, like, unexpected for no apparent reason.
He's talking shit about his favorite song of all time.
I mean, here's the thing. Again, this song can make me cry, but there's a I'm having an emotional experience hat, and there's a, if I were to give this a grade, it wouldn't be an A+ because of that, But then
is there a song that you would give an A+, just in the general pantheon of musical theater?
No, and such is the nature of my brain. Almost Ladies Who Lunch, but there's one thing in it that I think is, like, grammatically wrong, and I can't think of it at the moment, but it's like, shit. No, like, Could I Leave You is good. It's not, anyway, whatever. Fuck that. So we go from Let Me Walk Among You, and then at the end he's like, won't just one person shake my hand? And then the town says, okay. And Edgar can't believe it, and they go back into the Joyful Noise gospel song, and now they're all singing it absolutely elated. They dance around, they accept him. And I think
Everybody
it's like
loves Batboy.
they do, and I think part of it's like if the pastor accepts him, then all these people that just go along with that are like, oh, okay, all right, cool. But like I said, if Edgar can hit the super high A flat that's called for, or at least the E natural at the end, whoo boy, that's a number for me.
I agree. Although I don't like the okay. It's that call and response thing that always is like in this
You just
show.
don't like gospel music.
No, I like gospel music. I don't like that specific
God
part
knows
right
the best
there.
gospel songs have strings of the word okay.
It's true.
Help me,
Let's
Jesus.
move on.
Okay.
That's between you and Jesus.
Jesus loves the Fault in Our Stars, so that's really where he gets it.
Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
On that note, let's talk about children.
Let the frogs pause in their song. Let the crickets hold their breath. Let the trees stand still as death. Then tell the mosquitoes not to bite. Now we've been hoping for so long. So fill the sky with fireflies, so they can see into each other's eyes, and then they'll get it right. Oh, children, don't be scared. The moon is up and we're all prepared. Children, take a look around. We're on sacred ground. And what we thought was lost at last is found.
Pan, the god of Pan comes and convinces these two siblings to fuck.
We don't know that yet, though. It's
True.
all in hindsight.
True. And neither do they. I think it's really important to keep in mind, like, it's
they
gross.
don't know it all, no.
It's gross, but, like, from their perspective, it's perfectly natural and naive, you know?
Yeah, it's just,
We know it's gross.
A girl and her bat boy.
That's
Have
right.
any of you seen Tromeo and Juliet?
No.
No.
The twist in that movie is that Tromeo and Juliet are brother and sister, and they're like, oh, let's just keep fucking because we brought the families together. Like, that's how they resolved that, and that was the vibe I was getting once that twist. I was like, man, that's fucked
I mean,
up.
that's definitely not how they resolve this one, though.
Yeah,
No. I mean, they don't resolve it at all, really.
Well, it's kind of just this happening incites Dr. Parker into killing Batboy.
Yeah.
Basically, that's about it.
I think my umbrage with this scene is just it kind of distracts and it's a different vibe than every other scene in there.
It's just weird. Like, Pan comes out and it's like, is this a dream? Like,
It feels
what is
like a
he-
different show. It feels like a different show, and to me, it's like songs like "Kiss the Girl" or "Can You Feel the Love Tonight," like that kind of thing. And of course, you can do it in a way that's really funny with all the different like creatures of the forest banging. But I don't know. Like, I just don't think it's necessary. You could consider it one last moment of true levity before we go into kind of a gauntlet of darkness. But I just think, we keep agreeing that the show is a tiny bit overlong. To me, this is, suspect number one. Just make it where in the Inside Your Heart scene, they're laying together and they say something that the adults in the audience will be like, y'all did it. It could even be funny. Like,
Okay, Brent,
Edgar being
I got a
like,
question about
does it
staging
usually
for you."
take that long? And she's like, I mean, more like at least a minute, but whatever. Like that kind of, just a little gag so that we know what they did. Kids
Oh,
don't.
poor
We move on.
Batboy.
He come too hard. Question: how do they usually stage it when they do this? Because in ours, it's a very graphic. She's blowing him and all that, and like,
Really?
It's like, yeah.
I've seen it more like the sex going on is the enthusiastic sex is all the animals around them, and they're more in a
Okay.
"Can you feel the love tonight?" Kiss the girl kind of thing. And like, is there kissing? Do they lie down? Yes, but it's not. You don't need to see him humping her, and that's not the joke. The
Okay,
joke.
that's what we got because they're like
I think
violently
they
having sex.
They did think the joke was that.
Yeah.
And you could stage it that way, and maybe there's a way to make that funny. But in my mind, it's like to me, that's I don't know. I wouldn't direct it that way, but that's just me.
This moment felt the most like Star Kid.
Yeah, it felt very gratuitous.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like this raunchy, like, okay, is this,
you know what
this
it reminded
isn't
me
quite
of?
the same.
Rocky Horror Picture Show, when Frank is like coming into everyone's rooms. That was the vibe of that scene.
Yeah, kind of. Which is its own kind of like, in Rocky Horror, it's like, oh, this is different. This is graphic in a different way. Kind of like when Frankenfurter randomly says, a mental mind fuck can be nice. And it's like, that was your F-bomb? You had one F-bomb and that was it? I don't know. It just sticks out.
They'd still rated R. It's not even like they're one F-bomb. It's not like they're PG-13. They could have said fuck the entire time.
Exactly. To me, it's just like, what? Okay. But Children can be a very fun, funny song if staged, I would say, in a way that is successful to that end.
Cut it. Don't fuck your sister, kids. All right, moving on. What do you think of like the final moment, the I'm not a boy moment, you know, where he decides like I am not a human being? Like, I feel like that's honestly the most heartbreaking point, where he just resigns himself to like, I am an animal.
I like it a lot, and I feel like it's the final statement it's the penultimate statement of the idea that you can't repress your true nature. And unless your true nature is, you know, desiring acts that are illegal and immoral,
like fucking your sister.
There you go. Embrace it or come to terms with it. And, you know, it feels like the kind of, again, an allegory for someone who isn't accepted in society and we didn't mention this in the content warning, but we're already kind of going some places, like the kind of person that does self-harm, let's say, because the world doesn't accept them, and they feel like they're not a person or not a worthy person. I'm not a boy, I'm an animal. I'm not worthy, I'm not adequately human. It is very heartbreaking.
Poor Bat Boy dies, and so does everybody else, except for Shelley and the sheriff.
And the fun dies too.
So you gotta hold your Bat Boy. Touch your Bat Boy.
Touch your Bat Boy.
Yeah, it was wild though. We're talking about the finale, and it's a song, but also what goes along with it is the explanation, the backstory, which we've sort of covered. But it's just wild that a random high school, you know, 15, 20 years after the show came out, did so much better and more engaging a staging and a version of the way that they explain that backstory than the original in 2001. But that just goes to show theater is a living art, you know?
No, what is your overall thoughts on Bat Boy, everybody?
Well, I liked Bat Boy. I think it's fun, you know? I don't know if I have a whole ton to say about it. I thought it was an enjoyable romp. You will not be bored for even a second because there is constantly something happening that will eventually blow you away, although we have completely spoiled everything. Though, you know, I
don't
think it's still...
it'll ruin it. I feel like knowing the information will not destroy the content within this show.
Yeah, this show I don't think is like, and you know better than me, but it's not like a Roger Ebert movie review. Like, should you go see it? Should you not? Like, I think it's spoiler. Like, it's for people that already know the show.
The whole show.
Yeah, exactly.
As far as a cheese rating, I'm going to give it West Virginia blue cheese.
Ooh.
From nice.
Oh boy, Spring Gap Mountain Creamery in West Virginia. So there you go.
All right. Brent, I know you got a lot to say. What is your overall thoughts on the Bat Boy, the musical?
Well, sometimes I dislike a good show, or I dislike something that is largely liked because of small nitpicky things. And this show's the opposite. I like this show despite all my nitpicky things. It speaks to me on a deep level. Again, being raised Christian, hating myself for the things that tempted me and the ways that I did, you know, the ways that I sinned and disrespected God, blah, blah, blah. To see another little bald child deal with that. I'm kind of kidding about the bald part, but to see someone go through that in a way that is heightened, and by making it fantasy and melodrama, it's made literally more emotional. It just really does it for me. Again, I wish the show just were better and more fun faster, sooner. And I have nitpicks here and there with the lyrics and the dialogue, but yeah, I find it to be a show that, despite everything, succeeds at what it's going for. And before we did the show, what am I trying to say? Before we started recording, I Googled this, but apparently any mammal milk can be converted to some kind of cheese. We drink milk.
Fellas?
We drink we drink milk from ruminants because they can produce a large amount of milk, like ruminants being cows, for instance. And their teats are easy to grasp and to milk. You can milk your pets. You can make cheese out of any mammal's milk. So my cheese rating is going to be something that's also probably great, even though it's considered by some to be gross or unlikely to be good. And that is bat milk. You heard it here first.
You know what? That's such a good idea. I'm shocked that it isn't in the show.
Yeah, I was about to say. I mean, it's not a cheese though, Brent. So
sorry, my bad. Bat milk cheese
turned into cheese.
Yeah.
Okay,
Bat
that's
cheese.
fine. That's fine.
My research didn't define whether you can make, I don't know, a cheddar, a bat brie, some kind of bat. I don't know. Brie, what kind of cheese would a bat make?
Bree. And I would like that you all refer to me as Bat Bree for the rest of the month.
Bat Bree. Well, Bat Bree, what is your overall thoughts on our discussion and your cheese rating and what we chatted about?
I think you guys... I haven't done one of these in so long. This is so weird.
I've missed you so much. It's been months.
This is the first show we're recording, and I know they're going to be swapped. But I think this was just a great time to come back. Brent is here, and I don't know, the discussion... it just always opens up, and I feel like he brings out a different side of you too. So I am just so happy that this was the episode I came back on, and I think you guys did a wonderful job talking about Bat Boy. And I was Googling it while you guys were talking about it, and it looks like a lot of fun, and I hope to see it one day. And my cheese is an Asiago cheese bat cracker.
Oh.
I looked up bat cheese, and there is apparently a
Motherfucker,
site
don't you fucking steal mine before I
Just
can even say it.
called
Don't you
bat
fucking
cheese.
steal it. Don't you motherfucker.
He already stole it from you. Are you kidding me? He
No,
already
'cause
gave it bat cheese.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to show you what mine is. I like Bat
Oh,
Boy. It's
Lord.
good. But hold on. Let me show you what my bat cheese is, because you need to see this. Share screen. I feel like I do this every time. I'm just going to
Oh, is
share
that
this
your
whole
mouse
screen.
that you're... Because all I see
Yes.
is your
Oh, look at
hand
you.
underneath your desk moving back and forth, and I was like, Jess, what are you doing? Oh, I see.
That's my
I
bat
see.
cheese ball. I'm giving it a bat cheese ball.
Wow.
I like the olives for eyes.
Same. I do
It's
love
so cute.
any excuse to put olives in things. Preferably
You like
my
olives?
mouth. Oh, I love olives. Pimento, black, green, all the... What is it? Manzanilla, whatever that one is. Fun times. Put the olives in my face.
Brent, thank you for joining us. It was honestly an honor to chat with you again and talk with you about something you obviously are passionate about. This is a great musical, and thank you for giving me an excuse to finally watch it. I know you've got a great amount of content out there. Promote it for the world.
Okay. And yeah, it was nice to do a show where I really genuinely liked the show for once, instead of having a lot of misgivings. So if you are interested in my funny songs about video games, sometimes using the music from them, that's at youtube.com/BrentalFloss. I also do videos where I break down other musicals I don't like or things I don't like about them. But I am currently writing a Star Trek parody musical, specifically of The Wrath of Khan, called Khan, the Musical. And you can follow the development of it and the behind-the-scenes weird thoughts I have about it at twitter.com/UASTPM. That stands for Unauthorized Star Trek Parody Musical. It's a terrible name for a Twitter. UASTPM. And you can also follow me personally at BrentalFloss on Twitter.
Also, if you like having fun game nights with your friends, you should buy his video game, Use Your Words.
Yes, if you like Jackbox, we're cheaper than a Jackbox party pack, and there's like 18 hours of non-repeating content, and it's really fun. And one thing I always say, by the way, thanks, Jess. One thing I always say about the game is if you buy it on a platform that doesn't let you return the game, like the Switch doesn't let you return the game, if you buy it and you don't like it, I will personally PayPal you the price of it. I believe in it that strongly. No questions asked. You didn't like it? Let me know your PayPal email or your Cash App.
All right. Brent, thank you for joining us. Andrew, you know who else is a wonderful, wonderful human being?
Our patrons?
No, the Bat Boy, but also our patrons. Thank you guys for listening.
Bat Boy's
Please
not a
follow
boy.
us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher at Musicals with Cheese, or on Twitter at Cheesy Musicals. We're on Patreon at Musicals with Cheese, Instagram Musicals with Cheese, YouTube page Musicals with Cheese. We have a Patreon-only podcast that is going on weekly called Patreon with Cheese. Check that out. We got a lot of cool shit going on there. Email us at musicaltheaterlives@gmail.com. Tell us how wrong we are. We often are. Our title card was created by the amazing Jolene Casco. Go send her some love on Instagram at Jolene Casco. Our keeper of the cheese is Juliet Antonio. Thank you for keeping track of our cheese ratings, because God knows I wasn't going to do it. This show is produced by the amazing, the wonderful, I'm so fucking glad you're back, Brianna Jones!
That Bree.
Our themes were created by... Oh, sorry about that. If you've noticed, we have very fancy theme songs that relate to whatever show we're talking about, and they are created by the amazing Robin Nash of IOU Music UK. Go check out her stuff. Thank you to the Broadway Podcast Network for having us on the platform and for not kicking us off for talking about fucking your sister so much. All right, you guys, is there anything else you want to say before we wrap this up?
This has been a true pleasure, and thank you for having me again, fellas. Fellas
Anytime.
and lady. Et al.
So glad to have you on. Can't wait to have you on for Gutenberg in the near future.
Oh, please, absolutely.
Okay. Andrew, anything else you want to say to Brent before we say goodbye?
Oh boy. Yeah.
This is like when
A+.
your mom makes you hug your uncle at Thanksgiving. Like, can we just leave? Can't we just go? I don't want to.
I mean, we're just waiting for Jess to leave the show, and then it'll just be us two.
And it'll finally be what it was always meant to be.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time on Musicals with Cheese.
Bye.
Hold me, bad boy, touch me, bad boy, feel me, bad boy.
Milk me, bat boy.